Hello, it's Joy from Crochet Road. Today I want to show you 3 different ways you can finish your work in the round, and this can be really helpful just to know 3 different tricks, especially if you're struggling with one or the other of them. So first of all, what I've done here is I've done actually a chain 4 join with slip stitch to make a circle. You can also use a magic ring, and then that's what I normally do, but just in this case I did the other way, and then I've made 7 single crochet in the US terms so far, marked the first stitch, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 single crochet, and we're ready to make the 8th in this round. So I want to have 8 single crochet in this round. And then I'm going to show you the first way that you might like to join your work, which I'm sure you all know. Just to make it clear, we're going to have 3 different ways. So the first way is to slip stitch into the first stitch of the round. So that's our first stitch. It's been marked. You keep your thumb on the stitch you want to work into, drop the marker, place the hook under the front and the back loop of that stitch, grab the yarn, pull it through the stitch and pull it through the working loop on your hook, and that's a slip stitch. Now, if you're going to continue working, obviously I'm not because I've already cut the end. If you're going to continue working in that round, in that colour, then that's fantastic. You just continue to go on like that and do what the pattern instructs you to do. But the problem with a slip stitch join, especially if you're going to change colour, you're going to cut it off and then finish off the round like this, is that you tend to see and sometimes accidentally work into this little extra bump here. So let's count our stitches from the one that the working yarn's coming out of. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and a little bump. It's kind of like 8.5 stitches. It just looks a bit messy to me. So I generally avoid it myself. That's just personal choice. I like to take a little bit longer and finish the work so it looks as neat as possible wherever I can. So that's your first option. Now I'm just going to undo that and show you a second option. So we have our 8 single crochet in the round, and I'm going to show you a method called the needle join, and it's just what I call it. I've seen it called that before, so let's just call it that. I'm going to fasten off, so I've already cut the yarn, and then pull on the hook to pull the loose end through that stitch. Grab a yarn needle. I like to use the bent tip clover. This one's a chibi, and it's actually a large one. CHIBI is the type that I like. It's in a little orange tube, and it comes with 3 different needles, or 2 of the same size and 1 of the other size. And so this is really good even for super bulky yarn like this one. It tends to work quite well when you can get all the strands through. Which, yay, I did. Okay, so we are threaded up on our needle. Now we're going to work the needle join into the first stitch under the front and the back loop, and then pull it reasonably tight, and then work through the center of the last stitch of the round and down through the bump at the back, that 3rd loop we call it. Just down through that, again pulling it pretty tight, really tight, so that it disappears. That is another way of making a nice neat finish. So I'm just going to mark one of the stitches, and then we can count from that stitch around and make sure we've got 8 stitches. So we're starting with the marked stitch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then you can see that little needle join there. Not too noticeable in a lighter weight yarn. It's a little bit noticeable in this heavy, bulky yarn. But let's pop that one aside. And the third method, which is my favourite way to finish off work in the round, especially if you're changing colours, is to do an invisible join. So again, we're going to use a needle. I've done 8 single crochet into this round. I've marked the first stitch. Just going to cut it with a yarn tail of around about 15 centimetres, and then fasten off that tail, so just pull on the hook until the tail comes through the stitch, and then we thread up our yarn needle. Sometimes a little bit easier said than done with stranded yarn like this one. Okay, so threading up a yarn needle, pull it through, ready to work. Now instead of working into the first stitch of the round for this join, we're going to work into the second stitch of the round. We're going to make a fake stitch that sits over the top of this first stitch of the round. So let's remove the stitch marker. Don't you love the way I just drop them? It's kind of fun. Okay, so we're going to work under the front loop and the back loop of the second stitch of the round. Don't pull it through too tight. I've got too much yarn on the needle. Okay, so you need the loop to be a little bit loopy so you can see what you're working with. And then you go back through the last stitch, the center of the last stitch of the round, which is where your yarn's coming out here, and the third loop, which is this little bump at the back here. Through both of those. Doesn't want to work for me. Okay, and through, sorry about that lack of focus, through that third loop, pulling it through fairly loosely again. And then the third step to this process is to go through the front and the back loops of the first stitch of the round, which are underneath the fake stitch we're going to do. This helps to sort of pull them towards the back, so I'll show you how that helps to hide them out of the way. And I actually like to go through the third loop too with this, and then weave in the ends afterwards. But let's just fiddle with these now. We're going to make the front loop and the back loop sit in position, and you see how that's just a really neat finish. You can hardly even tell that we've finished the round in that spot. Now you generally start the next round in a different stitch to where you finished it. If you're starting with a different colour, just helps to avoid any kind of messy look in case there's a bit of an extra loop showing. But as I was saying, with that extra loop, so it's quite hard to see it when, I'm going to lift this up and show you, it's under there, but that's actually the front loop of the first stitch that we did. But it's really well hidden when you do that final stage of going under the front loop and the back loop of the first single crochet of the round, and then through the third loop at the back of that first stitch as well. Then you're ready to weave in your ends, or to leave them for later on if that's what you like to do. I hope this has been helpful, and thanks very much for watching. Have a great day. Bye for now.